Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the Northern California Gardening Channel, where gardening is made easy. So today we will be discussing about how to prune a pomegranate tree. So what you are seeing in this picture is a pomegranate tree, and it has got branches all over the place, and we want to kind of prune it nicely. So before I get into the pruning, I wanted to basically tell you some basic tips which you can kind of keep it in mind. And once you understand those basic tips, after that, I will demonstrate on how to prune this pomegranate tree. All right, so let's look into how to prune a pomegranate plant or a bush or a tree. So if you ask, why someone need to prune, the pruning is required to make sure that the plant or the tree is growing healthy and able to yield good fruits. That's the basic reason for pruning. So let's look into detail of how to prune the pomegranate plant. So my strong suggestion would be not to prune in the first year until the plant get established. So we don't want to be kind of pruning on the first year, right? So wait for a year, let the tree establish, and you can prune that probably starting from second year or so. So once it gets established. So these are the basic tips that you want to keep it in mind while you're pruning, and make sure that you internalize it and before you actually start pruning. The first one is you need to make sure that you're doing it in a dormant season. So what does dormant season mean? Dormant season is when the plant or trees are not growing. So this should be after the freeze. Freeze usually happens during late in the in December time frame, at least in the Northern California. And you kind of wait until that time, and then after that you do the freeze. So mid January to late January is probably a good time, and just make sure that you choose the right time to kind of prune it. That's very important. The second one is make a 45-degree sharp cut. So I have my pomegranate tree here, so where I have shown it on the right. So when you make the cuts, so you need to make sure that you are doing it in an angle of 45 degrees, right? Or if you look at this stem right here, if you're making a cut out this, don't make it like like this. You have to make the cut like this. So what happens when you do it in a 45-degree angle? So the water doesn't kind of go into the branch; it will kind of fall off. It will trip off when it rains. So that's the idea. Make a 45-degree sharp cuts and ensure that you are taking a sharp pruners, or you use if the branches are thick, then use a handsaw. The second point. Third point is don't prune more than 1/3 of the tree. So this is a rule of thumb. So what happens when you start pruning more than 1/3? So the tree will think that it's getting impacted and start having a lot of suckers from the bottom of the tree right here. So you don't want to have a lot of suckers, because the suckers are going to suck the energy from the main tree, and then it's going to start growing. Actually, it's going to think that it's going to die, and then it want to live, and so it will start producing more suckers, especially on the pomegranate. So make sure that you don't prune more than 1/3, right? That's kind of a rule of thumb of the pruning. And so the next one is remove the diseased tree. For this, you don't have to really wait until the dormant season. You can remove the diseased branches. If there are any diseased branches in my tree, I'll show you. And those can be removed at any point of time. You don't have to wait until the dormant season. As soon as you see a diseased branch, it's kind of rotten, and then you can see that actually it's completely become dark brown in color. So you can just get rid of those. And because what happens, otherwise it will going to suck the energy from the rest of the plant right there. So prune the branches that grow inward. So if there are branches that are growing inward, like this, for example, these branches, a lot of branches you see this kind of growing inward, as well as the crisscross branches. So what's going to happen is these, when the leaves come for these branches, right, and the leaves come in, so they're going to start giving a shade to this, so they won't become healthy. So you want to kind of have the tree kind of nicely grow like in an outward fashion, right, where there is a lot of sunlight, so all the branches are healthy and then kind of yield fruits. That's the idea here. And then prune for shape. So how tall do you want? I mean, do you want it to grow? Pomegranate tree typically it may reach a height of 10 to 12 to 15 feet? Do you want to have it 12 feet, where it's going to be difficult for you to, uh, you know, uh, remove the fruits, harvest the fruits? So based on that, you wanted to kind of, if you don't want it too tall, you can always prune it down at the top branch, so that, you can prune for the shape, right? And what kind of shape you want, right? So I'm going to show you a pomegranate tree, where, I wanted to grow this one. I specifically got it as a tree, and I'm just making it as a tree. It's continuing to grow as a tree, and I'm pruning. There's another one, right, which is basically a bush, which I planted it, and I'm going to convert it into a tree, right? I'll show you that, how I'm going to do it. So you can prune for whatever the shape you want. And then the final point is, remove suckers. So the suckers, you don't want the suckers, and suckers also you don't have to really wait until dormant season, and you can remove the suckers as soon as you see it, right? Because you don't want the suckers to be popping up. You want all the yield to be coming on the top right here, and that's the key. So these are the basic steps, and make sure that you keep these basic tips in mind before you go and start pruning.
All right. So to prune an apple or a pomegranate tree or a bush, so you need to have these tools. Actually, the right tools are important. So this is a nice sharp clippers that is required, and you can use this. And then this one is a handsaw. You can use this handsaw. Actually, is good enough if it's a thick branch, right? So this handsaw is good enough, and you need to use the right important tools. Tools is important. So what you need to do is, so you take a hydrogen peroxide. So this is a disinfectant. So you might have already pruned with your clippers other trees, and make sure that you clean it with the hydrogen peroxide with a clean piece of cloth, and clean the blades so that it doesn't get infected. And every time you prune a new tree, so make sure that you just clean it with a nice piece of cloth with hydrogen peroxide. All right, so now I clean the blades. So make sure that you wear a nice pair of gloves, as well as wear some glasses. Safety is important. So now we are ready for pruning.
All right, so let's get into the pomegranate tree. So this is a pomegranate tree that I was talking about, and so this is there's a lot of crisscross branches that we need to get rid of, or we need to prune it. And it does not have any suckers. As you see here on the bottom, there are no suckers, but a lot of crisscross branches. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to prune this so that it becomes a healthy tree. All right, so let's start pruning this now. So this doesn't need a handsaw that I showed you, because there is no thick branches. This pruners are good enough. So what I'm going to do is, you see this branch right here. So this is kind of crisscrossing, and I'm going to just prune this one right here. I'm going to prune it. Just prune this branch right here. So that goes away. And this one also, anything related to downward branches, I'm going to prune it. So this one I'm going to prune it. It's a downward one. And then this is also going downward, because this is going to be fully blocked by the sun, and it's not going to grow as a healthy branch. So I'm going to just remove this one also. Okay, got this pruned. Okay, see these inward branches right here. So it's kind of going inside, and I'm going to prune it off. I'm going to prune this branches off. So this one is also competing with this branch. So I'm going to just take it off. These are 45-degree cuts. This branch right here. So this branch also is kind of growing inward. So I'm going to clip off this one as well. This branch, I got rid of it. And this one is kind of going downward. So I'm going to also remove this one. So what I'm going to do is, this is another downward branch. So I'm just going to take it and clip it off over here. Clip off right here. This is a downward branch. And this branch right here is kind of too long. So it may not bear, maybe too heavy for it to bear the fruits. So I'm going to cut it right here. I'll cut it right here. All right, the pruning is done for this pomegranate now.
So as you see here, so it's got a nice airflow all over, and it's got a nice, it kind of grows outward, and a lot of sun will be coming inside. And I'm hoping this to become a healthy plant. There is one more I may need to prune off. This one is crisscrossing, so I'm going to remove it. This is an inward growing branch, so I'm going to just prune it right here so that it doesn't crisscross with the other one. All right, so that's all it is on this pomegranate tree, and the pruning is done. So this is how it looks after the pruning. All right, so this is another pomegranate tree that I have, and if you really look at this pomegranate tree, for some of you following me, so it was very bushy. So what I did was I cut off all the tree trunks. Actually, I wanted to grow this as a tree, so I basically pruned off everything and then only left two of them. And I wanted to keep one as a fail safe in case one doesn't grow well. So that's why I kept both of them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove one of the branches, and I'm going to keep only one tree trunk so that it kind of grows nicely as a tree, because both are established. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to remove those suckers from the bottom. Okay, let's do that. These suckers now. So I'm going to just remove these suckers using my pruners. Get rid of all the suckers. So as I told you earlier, suckers need to be removed, and you don't have to wait till dormant season. You can remove it at any point of time. So now what I'm going to do is the next thing. Let me remove this one right here. Okay, all the suckers are gone. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my handsaw, because this is a little bit of a thicker branch. I'm not going to use my um, clippers, pruners. This is a little bit thick. So what I need to do is, when you're cutting a thick branch, right, first don't do it immediately right here. So do a cut here, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the clippers and I'm going to use the saw for this one, because this one is a little bit thinner. So I'm going to get rid of this, right, this branch. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to keep this one only. So I'm going to use my clippers, and yeah, it's going to be hard, but I'm going to go get rid of this. All right, so I got rid of it, and now I'm going to use this handsaw to remove this branch. Okay, so that's a nice clean cut, 45-degree cut, and so that's what I did actually, so the water will not stagnate on it. So there is another one right here. I'm going to just clip it off. All right, so here's what I did to this pomegranate plant. Right here you see there's only one single uh, branch and trunk now, and I just left it. The other one I kind of trimmed it off, and it is going to grow some more suckers from the bottom, because I took off I cut half of the tree. It's going to grow some more suckers on the bottom, which is okay, and I'll take it off. But if I want to make it as a tree, I don't have any other option. That's the only option I have, so that's why I did. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, please do click like and subscribe to my channel. I will talk to you soon in another video. Bye.